What's up, witches?
What's up?
I'm Linda,
And I'm John.
and this is Getting Witchy. Now, before we get into the actual episode, we do have some updates for you. I'm taking my stuff out of my pocket.
I thought you were pulling out the updates. I don't know what you're...
No, they were cutting into my stomach. Do you want to tell them?
About? Oh, that I may occasionally not be here?
Yes.
If, we can't do a recording on one of my available nights?
Yes.
So, yeah, I may not be present at all of the recordings over the next foreseeable future. We will do our very best that we do them together. However, I've taken on a second job, so yeah, I'll have like 2 nights a week depending on how scheduling goes, but
right.
Roughly 2 nights a week, and 1 whole day, but you work that day. Right. So anyway, but yeah, so if I'm sure she's quite capable of explaining it at the time, but just, I don't know, it's an update, and wanted to let you guys know, like, not that, I have any kind of fan base or anything, but I know there are 1 or 2 people that would be like, well, where's John?
Right.
So, anyway, was there another?
Well, tonight we're going to talk about the Japanese Pantheon.
There was another.
There was another?
Mm-hmm.
What was it?
She is officially a graduate of SWIHA, the Southwest Institute
of Healing Arts.
And a certified? It's not a cert.
No, it's not a cert. It is it's a diploma. But I am now officially a clinical herbalist.
Herbalist.
Yeah.
It's not Harry Potter, I know. It's not
herbology. No, do you know what the difference is between herbology and herbalism?
Well, herbology would just be about the plants, the flora and fauna, whereas herbalist or herbalism would be the use of said flora and fauna.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, tonight we're talking about the Japanese Pantheon.
Yes.
The Japanese Pantheon is, there's 2 main religions there, but they're both deeply rooted in their culture. One of the sites that I used of the 4, 3 of the 4 that I used were actually, to me, it appeared... Well, one was definitely a Japanese cultural website, .org, I believe it was, and the other 2 looked like one looked like a tourism, that tells the history of and the meaning behind and blah blah blah, and one was just about the history. So anyway, I get. The idea or concept, like with most faiths, are you acting in accordance with your beliefs? Did you do something good for someone today? Did you help someone today? Were you respectful to your elders today? Were you respectful to your coworkers today? I mean, like those questions don't sound religious or spiritual, but those are the result of their religious beliefs, what they practice, because love thy neighbor.
Right.
Well, were you respectful to your elders today? Right. How disrespectful are kids and adults to the older generation? You're old, just go over there and die. Basically, is how some people act. And actually, I've not personally heard, but heard in a recording someone say that to someone. This society is we have a different view of the elderly compared to the Japanese and even Chinese cultures to a degree.
Right.
But that's the whole. It's a completely different view of the elderly.
Actually, I think a lot of the other cultures treat their elders better than
we do.
Here.
Yeah, it's unheard of. Like an old folks' home, as we call it here. Well, now they are trying to be politically correct, but that's ultimately what it is.
Right.
That's non-existent in Japan.
Right.
Well,
they have multi-generational homes. Like the elders are taken in by one of their kids, and then
you could have 3 or 4 generations in one house. And sometimes, I mean, there are, like in China, there's in other countries, not just China, but multiple families living in one small, let's say 1-bedroom apartment. Mm-hmm. But no, this is the entire family, basically living in, so it's just a different perspective, different viewpoint.
Whereas here, if a man is still living at home with his parents, it's seen as a red flag.
Yes.
Which is stupid, because if he's taking care of his parents, then...
If that's what he's doing,
well, I mean, if that's what he's doing. But, I mean, most cultures...
A lot of the kids are just lazy nowadays and don't want to have to deal with anything. It's easier to just, stay where they're at.
But anyway.
So... Shintoism and Buddhism are the 2 main religions of Japan, or based on the information I had, pretty much the only 2. There's obviously some others, but they're anyway. Shinto literally translate as, well, I found 2, and interestingly enough, the two of the 3 sites that I found to be of Japanese creation, or what I thought to be created by Japanese for the world to see. One of them says it translates as the way of God, and then another one says the way of the gods. Still basically saying the same, but one does plural and the other singular. They originally didn't have gods. Shinto, what they called gods were kami, or nomichi, which in Japanese, it's the Japanese native indigenous folk religion, and predates historical records, any written records. There are many practices, attitudes, and institutions there are many practices, attitudes, and institutions that have developed to make up Shinto, and they all revolve around the land and seasons, as well as their relation to the human inhabitants. Kind of like some of the others, like what is important to the community, like with the Mayan and even Aztec. But there's no central figure, unlike the Abrahamic faiths, and there's no, again, they predate records, so there's no Torah, there's no Bible, there's no
no Quran.
So there's no central figure as the Godhead, or grand prophet that brought this to the people. It just was and is. And Shinto was not called Shinto prior to Buddhism being brought over. It had no name until Buddhism was brought to the islands. I know this doesn't have anything to do with the Pantheon, but it does at the same time.
Right.
Because of the probably a quarter to a half of the gods in their Pantheon are Buddhists. They've changed the name a little bit, but the characteristics are the same.
Right.
But anyway. So the gods of the kami represent sacred objects. Objects in nature, things like the sun, moon, wind, thunder, and other natural elements. In addition, they revered almost what we would call worshipped the spirit of the dead, similar to like the Day of the Dead celebrations in Mexico. But this was based on what I researched. It was all the time. It wasn't just a certain period time of year.
Right.
But that included the emperor's ancestors as well as their own, which made me think of, was it Mushi or Mushu from...
Mulan. Yeah.
Mulan. Was it
It was Mushu,
Mushu, the dragon?
Yeah.
He's guardian of of the ancestors. And then all the ancestors celebrated when she... Whatever. I'm maybe confusing some of their cartoons, but they showed the ancestors in celebration of her accomplishment or restoring honor to the family.
Right.
Anyway, and that's a big thing. See, that's where like honoring the elders and the young, which they have a girls' day, which honors any girls in the family, boys' day, and then they have coming of age day. But Shintoism does not have anything for death. There is no ritual to help the spirit move on or celebrate the life of or anything. So even a devout Shinto follower will switch to Buddhist practices and rituals for the period of, letting go and the funeral, which I found interesting. Now, before Buddhism arrived, the kami were less gods in per se, as in other religions.
And they were more just spirits.
Yes, forces of nature.
Yeah.
And as I stated, each kami was associated with some natural power, like the wind, or a place like a mountain, and they were worshipped for their qualities, whether good or evil, good, evil, strength, or fertility. So the Japanese religion isn't black and white. As we just mentioned, they borrow aspects of traditional Shintoism and blend it with Buddhism. I talked about the Boys and Girls Day already.
Right.
So, traditionally, it is said that the number of kami is immeasurable by some estimates, somewhere in the range of about 8 million.
That's a lot.
8 million.
Mm-hmm.
Various spirits, house gods, just family gods, not just the ancestors. Well, they considered ancestors, so that would, okay. So, there's no way we're going to go over all of them. Not going to happen. But here are some of the Shinto gods, as well as the Buddhist joining of them. Do you want to?
Well, before we move on to the list of gods and goddesses, I just want to point out when we say kami, it's spelled Kami, not Commie like communists and communists. Okay? Kami. Just so that if they want to look it up, they know what to look up.
Yes.
Okay? All right, so.
You know what I just realized? The first one?
Yeah.
Amaterasu Omikami.
Yeah.
Who was the goddess of the sun, ancestor of the imperial house. Mm-hmm. So all of the every emperor claims descendancy to her.
Yes.
Now, you remember that episode of Stargate where the SG-1, Sam, Jack, Teal'c, and Daniel went to this planet that looked like, because it looked like the Stargate was at a beach, and they went to the beach and went to the water and basically were taken captive.
Oh, by the water creature.
Yes. Sam, Jack, and Teal'c were sent back, and every time they thought about going back to the island, they got in severe pain. They thought Daniel was dead. They basically mourned him, and Daniel was in an underwater lab.
Yes.
Well, his mate was the first part of that name. Amaterasu, or something similar to it.
Was it?
Yes. We're going to go back and watch that. I don't remember the episode, but that's one of the things I liked about Stargate is they put different mythos, because there is a myth in Japanese, in the Japanese mythos, of a water goddess coming from an egg. It arose from the water.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but he was talking to him about Sumer.
Right.
And what was the other one? Starts with a B.
Babylon?
Babylon. But her name was used in that episode. Pretty sure. But so anyway, I totally threw us off, and I apologize, but it made me think of that. She was considered the Queen of Heaven and creation itself. Then there is, and I know I'm not going to pronounce these right, another goddess.
Ame-no-Uzume.
Ame-no-Uzume?
Ame-no-Uzume.
Uzume.
Yeah.
Imagine saying that with the Japanese. You know how everything is so stern and... Goddess of the sun, no, wrong one. Goddess of the dawn, and patron of dancers.
Yes.
And she apparently saved the world from eternal night.
Yes. So there is a myth in Japanese mythology where Amaterasu was embarrassed, humiliated by her brother Susanoo, and she decided to
shut herself away in the cave.
And basically plunge the world into darkness, into eternal winter.
Because she was the goddess of the sun. Without her, the sun didn't rise.
Right. And so the rest of the kami got together and started working on a plan to draw her back out.
They threw a party.
They threw a party.
And,
and during the party...
Any hot chick wants to go to a party.
Ame-no-Uzume was dancing and basically stripping, which she was prone to do.
Mm-hmm.
She was prone to wearing either loose-fitting or sexy stuff. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the kami thought it was quite hilarious. And so as she's doing this dance, she's basically taking off pieces of clothing, and they're all hooting and hollering and basically having a grand old time. And Amaterasu, her curiosity gets the best of her, so she moves the rock that's blocking the cave and peeks out, and she sees her own reflection in a mirror, and she's enthralled with it, and she steps out.
Yes, I remember that.
The other gods close the cave behind her so that she can't go back, and it restores the sun to the world.
Which is also why, from what I read, and thank you for that, because I forgot all about this, that's why if you have gone to a Shinto temple and find mirrors around the temple, that mythos, that story is why there are mirrors in the temple in honor of that event that brought the world out of darkness.
Yes. And from what I read, the imperial family actually has 3 different artifacts that are from Amaterasu. One of them is the 8-fold mirror, because it's what caught her attention. And then there are a couple others that
There's a sword.
Yeah, there's a sword.
And some kind of shield or something.
Was it a shield or a pouch? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, thanks to Ame-no-Uzume, we still have sunlight, because she was cunning enough to draw the sun goddess out of the cave.
Yes. And some people believe, in terms of those 3 items that the emperor's family had, that are passed down from ancient times. Mm-hmm. One of them, the mirror specifically, or maybe the shield, brightly polished, but one of them is supposedly a communication device to the god. Supposedly.
Right, and I think it was the mirror. But either way, I mean, that's something you guys can look up if you're interested in it.
And then there's Benzaiten, Benzaiten. goddess of luck and wisdom. With this next, kami of all that flows. So,
Right.
we talking about money, water, or the female flow?
Time.
Time. That's, that flows. Supposedly in one direction, but I don't believe that. And then Bishamonten, 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 a god of war, but also a Buddhist protector of shrines and holy places.
Yes. One of the 7 lucky gods.
Oh, see, I didn't find that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was another one.
There's 7. Well, Daikokuten. Rakuten, one of the new things in Korea. The program or channel. Well, that's Kuten. But Daikokuten is also one of the 7 lucky gods, and they're in the Japanese mythos, who brings prosperity and fortune to people throughout Japan. So that's probably definitely kind of like the little Buddha belly, the Buddha in households for luck and prosperity, probably similar to that.
Now with Daikokuten, or whatever his name is, I don't know if I said that right, he favors people who bring their own fortunes. Like if you go out and do something and you hit it big, like he'll bless you even more.
Well, yeah, you're doing something. That's the whole concept of Wicca, though. With if you're going to do a spell, you need to put energy into it to make it,
right,
to put it out. But then continue to put energy into it by doing things that would bring it about.
Yes.
Like if you want to hit the lotto, just using that as an example,
you gotta play.
You gotta play, first of all, and not. I mean, yes, you could go. You know what? I'll play 1 mega and 1 power once a week, but they draw 2 times a week or 3 times a week. One of them does.
Right. Powerball draws 3 times a week,
and the megas
is
2.
Twice.
Right, and then usually the state one does 3 times a week as well, I think. Anyway, but it does whether it's 2 times a week or it's not just once. So if you're not playing every chance you can, well, you're limiting or making it more difficult for the universe to make that happen. So, like you were saying, he favors those that
go out and make their own fortunes.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Ibisu. I've seen this dude before.
Really?
Yeah, the smiling god of luck. You've ever seen the little statue of the dude standing and he's bald head, little portly, and like this maybe, and he's just fucking cheese. You've never seen the smiling?
I may have. It just doesn't sound familiar.
I have, and every time I see it, I kind of giggle a little bit. But the smiling god of luck, wealth, and prosperity, particularly where the sea is concerned.
Oh, so fishermen.
Yeah. Patron god of fishermen.
And probably sea transport.
Yeah.
Pirates.
Yeah, well, they did really good. Fortune smiled upon them quite a bit.
Fujin, god of the wind, one of the eldest gods and one who was present at the creation of the world, is neither good nor evil. Which, I mean, I can see that because wind is not necessarily good or bad.
Right. I mean, it is.
It is.
And, I mean, something not nice happens, it's the wind. You weren't prepared.
Right. Hachiman, god of war.
Yeah, that's all I could. I did not get the chance to search.
Yeah, I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah. And it's just like it sounds, Hachiman. H-A-C-H. I know we're not pronouncing that right, but I-M-A-N.
And then we have Hoderi, who is the kami of the sea and fishermen, although he once had power over all the fish in the sea through his magic fish hook, which is a popular legend. or I'm sorry,
But again, we just had
yeah, we
Ibisu.
just had Ibisu.
Like that's what I was like. There's multiples of, just like with the wait till you see the Aztec. Oh my God. Or Mexican.
The Mexica.
Yeah.
Mexica. But anyway, there is a popular legend that recounts how Hoderi's cruelty and his jealousy of his brother Hoori, a master hunter, proved to be Hoderi's undoing. Oh, who does that sound like?
Cain and Abel. I guarantee you this story is older.
Probably.
Now, the next is Hoti or Hotai, Hotei, Hotei. Now, there are many, and we haven't mentioned this yet, but some of them that we've already talked about, or at least one, is considered in Japanese culture as a bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bodhisattva. Basically, a Buddhist figure.
Yes.
That is near the end of, or on the path, like way into the path of enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming an enlightened one, like the Buddha. But they're also considered a god of Japanese faith. Another of the lucky seven gods, or seven lucky gods. Here again, this is the laughing Buddha. We just had.
Well, we had the smiling.
Okay.
We had the smiling dude.
Maybe the laughing Buddha is the one I was thinking of, but the laughing Buddha, known as the laughing Buddha, many people in the West confuse him with the Buddha, making him one of the most well-known Buddhist images outside of Asia, although few Westerners recognize the name. Well, I wouldn't necessarily have recognized the name, but I would have definitely. I know the difference between the laughing Buddha and the Buddha.
Regular Buddha.
First of all, the laughing Buddha is almost always, that I've seen, like I mentioned before, standing up, whereas the Buddha is usually in the lotus position or cross-legged.
Oh, you should.
Now, there's a couple different types of Buddha, though. There's also a feminine-looking one that there's this ginormous rock-carved mountain that was turned into a standing Buddha, but it doesn't look like the big portly Santa Claus Buddha with no hair. Like Santa Claus shape, but bald and clean-shaven. Anyway, I digress. Anari, Okami. God of rice, tea, smithing, which is an interesting mix.
Mm-hmm.
You're a god of rice and tea. Now, tea, they created a ritual.
Yes.
For tea, which we don't get into. But to be also the god of smithing, that's blacksmithing, for those that don't know. It's an interesting...
Yeah.
And then fertility, although the smiths were usually pretty hot. They were well built. Just saying. And again, general prosperity.
And then we have Izanagi, the forefather of the other gods in the Japanese islands. He is another one of the gods of creation. Now, Izanagi is the father of Amaterasu and Susanoo, and Amaterasu's husband, who I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah, I can't either.
But
that also sounds like the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then we have Izanami, who is the sister and wife of Izanagi. And
we just can't get away with incest. We can't get away from incest.
Nope. And creator of the cycle of life and death. So she is also the mother of Amaterasu and Susanoo and their other brother, whose name I can't remember right now, but as soon as I see it, I'll be like, that's the one.
I'm sorry, I can't. In every faith that we've talked about, except the brief one on Indigenous and Aboriginal, every single one of them had some kind of incest action going on and keeping it within the family. Well, fuck, even the British monarchy, or all the monarchies of that period, would try to, you would marry your cousin who was the princess of
Right.
Russia when you were the
Well,
prince of England.
Mostly that was to keep the wealth inside the family.
Yeah, but it was for greed rather than. But then what was anyway? It just I find, we would not have gods like that today. People would freak the fuck out. I mean, like mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's not mainstream in Japan, but
Here in the States.
It blows my mind of how much incest was going on within the gods or the different belief systems. I don't know why I just did that. Sorry, guys.
Jizo.
Jizo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not Jiz, though.
I,
Sorry, that was disrespectful. It's Jizo, one of Japan's most beloved. What?
Bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva?
Bodhisattva.
Okay. Buddha on the way to enlightenment. Protector of children and the dead. That's an interesting blend.
That is an interesting blend. But those are two groups that do need to be protected.
Yeah.
Grave robbery is a thing.
Yeah. Jorojin, another of the 7 lucky gods, god of longevity, who came to Japan by way of China, which I find interesting. So they got a couple of their gods from China, obviously from people that came over, but then dominated China. And was it World War II? Like, dominated China. One little island. So I just find it interesting. Anyway.
Kagutsuchi, the Japanese god of fire. His fiery nature killed his mother. Ooh, that's not.
Yeah.
The divine creator Izanami during his birth. He is the god of blacksmiths and ceramic workers. So we have another god of smithing.
Yes. And fire.
Yes. But also ceramics, which they are very good at.
Canaan. I mean, how would they pronounce it? Kannon. Another Bodhisattva. Sattva.
Sattva.
Say Buddha on a person on their way to enlightenment. I'll just say that. But he was the she was the Buddhist god of compassion and mercy, worshipped in Buddhism across Eastern and South and Southern Asia. In Japanese mythology, she takes on divine features and is one of the most widely worshipped in Japan. Yeah, I'm just going to skip the word.
You're not going to try to say the B word anymore?
No.
Ninigi no Mikoto, great-grandfather of the first emperor of Japan, credited with bringing rice, civilization, and justice to humanity.
That kind of sounds like the Yellow Emperor of China, because he did the same thing. He brought cultivation, civilization, laws, writing, and anyway.
Raijin.
That sounds like it's Raijin. That looks like a very Hindu name. Buddhist name.
Yep. The chaotic god of thunder and lightning.
Not only does it sound like Thor, but that sounds like a Buddhist or Hindu god.
Yep.
And then apparently
Ryujin.
Ryujin. Ryujin. So similar name with slight variances, obviously, or differences. The dragon god and controller of the tides. Again, dragons. Susan. At least it's not Karen.
Susanoo no Mikoto, Japanese god of the sea and storms, a powerful and boisterous guardian kami. His moods are often as temperamental as his actions are chaotic. His fight with the dragon Orochi led to the creation of the sword Kusanagi no Tsurugi.
Yeah, they named their sword.
Which is part of Japan's sacred regalia, imperial regalia.
Mm-hmm.
So along with that eightfold mirror, it's a piece of regalia that the imperial family has that proves their descendants from Amaterasu.
Right. And then there's Suijin, Suijin, God of Water. That's it.
Oh yeah, and then this guy, Tsukuyomi no Mikoto, the moon god. He is forever separated from his wife, the sun goddess Amaterasu. He's also her brother. Ew. But anyway.
Oh, the avatar, the sun and the moon. Yin and yang. Remember the two fish?
Mm-hmm.
For one day a year, they get to come to... Interesting.
I can't remember what it was that he did, but he pissed her off greatly. And so
He probably slept with her sister or something. Or her daughter, which would be his daughter.
No, it was like he took somebody else's side or something like that. He
pissed her off.
He pissed her off.
That's enough said.
And so basically she divorced him and was like, you stay over there.
Right.
And made it so that they very rarely are ever in the same place at the same time.
One day a year.
So, yeah.
And then she even could you? I bet you there's a story about a fucking an eclipse. Like she's so angry with him, or he's angry with her, or blocks out her light because she's the sun goddess and he's the moon god.
And all he can do is reflect.
And so he blocks her off, so the earth doesn't get her light.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah,
I could see that, though.
I could see that, though. But, I mean, I didn't see anything like that. I just bet there's something out there
like
that.
probably is.
Anyway.
If you dig a little deeper, you'll probably find it.
Yeah, but if you dig a little deeper, you'll find all kinds of stuff. Obviously, 8 million or more commies.
Yeah.
You probably won't find information on all of them because there's so many that are just personal to the individual.
Right. Or to that particular family.
Right.
And this is just a super, super Cliff Notes, Spark Notes version of Japanese mythology. If you actually read them. So one of the websites that I used is called Mythopedia. Yeah. And you can find mythology from just about any pantheon there. Any culture. Because I also used it for the Greek and Celtics.
Okay.
But definitely check out that website. They go into much more detail and give more of the background. This is just a little...
Well, you said Cliff Notes.
Yeah, Cliff Notes, Spark Notes version. This is like the amuse-bouche version. The appetizer. To get you interested. So that if you want to look into these gods, you know who you're looking for.
Right. So, thank you. We appreciate you.
Next, we're doing Aztec?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no.
No?
I mean, that's
Mexica?
the next on the Pantheon.
Yeah.
The Aztec / Mexica. Which makes sense because one time when I was in jail, there was... because there's different groups, and there was a dude that was trying to intimidate others by taking off his shirt. I don't know why guys do that. Like that's your bare chest is going to intimidate me. But showing all his tattoos and screaming about he's Mexica.
Ah.
But it was a gang. It was, but I never what.
The thread only works if we know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And you actually scare us. But yeah, so I was wondering what he was talking about, and now I understand.
Mexica.
Aztec was not their actual name.
Right.
That's what
we call
them, or the Europeans,
Right.
because they say they came from Aslan, Aztlan.
Right. Right.
So, but we're going to get into that when we talk. But the next one is going to be on Litha.
Oh, that's right. Litha's coming up on the 21st.
First. Yep. So we're going to be doing it because we have some ideas, some suggestions for things that you could do. So we'll be doing it this coming Friday or Saturday?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So anyway, thanks for listening. And if you would like to email the show, and if you're listening to the audio podcast, there is a button that says contact the show. Go ahead and click that little button and send us your comments, your questions. And if you would like to let us know how you celebrate Litha, let us know so we can read it on the show. Thanks for listening. We love you all.
We do love you.
Peace out,
guys.
witches.